The afternoon sun hung low over the Tulane country road, its golden light spilling over fields of tall grass that swayed lazily in the warm breeze. Jamal Rivers sped along the cracked pavement on his rusted blue bicycle, the chain clicking as he turned it. His backpack, worn thin at the seams, bounced against his back, heavy with library books he'd checked out that morning. He was in a hurry. Home didn't hold much excitement these days. His mother would still be at the diner, working her second shift, and dinner would likely be reheated leftovers. But as he rounded the bend past Miller's Creek, something caught his eye, a silver Mercedes-Benz GLC, gleaming even on the thin coat of dust that clung to its surface. The car was stopped on the shoulder, and the hazard lights flashed like a distressed heartbeat. Beside it stood a tall, silver-haired man in an expensive gray suit. He was pacing with his phone in his hand, pointing it up toward the sky as though he were trying to get a signal from the cool summer air. Papers were rustling in the breeze from an open black leather briefcase in the passenger seat. With a hint of curiosity on his face, Jamal slowed his bike. He'd seen cars break down here before, but never machined this shiny, this out of place. As Jamal got closer, the man raised his eyebrows and turned to look up. "Hey, are you lost?" the man asked, his tone sharp but not cruel. Jamal shook his head. "No, sir, just heading home." "You need help." The man let out a breath and gestured toward the front of the car. "A flat tire. I tried calling roadside assistance, but there was no signal. Additionally, I have a meeting in less than an hour." Jamal moved closer after parking his bike on the grass. Except for front right tire, which sadly sagged against the rim, the Mercedes was spotless. He sat down, briefly examining it, and then looked back at the man. "Do you have a spare?" "It's in the trunk. However, the lug wrench that came with the vehicle is ineffective. Stripped the edge trying to loosen one of the bolts." A small, weathered toolkit was taken out by Jamal after he unzipped his backpack. The black fabric was faded, and the zipper stuck halfway before giving way with a tug. He stated simply, "I can fix it." The man raised an eyebrow. "Kid, do you even know what you're doing?" Jamal didn't look up, already fitting the wrench to the stubborn bolt. "Yeah, my granddad taught me. He was an engineer. He used to say there's not a car on this road I can't handle." Although his words were quiet, there was a hint of pride beneath them. Watching, the man crossed his arms. "Your granddad still around?" Jamal paused and said, "No, passed away last year." For a moment, only the sound of metal against metal filled the air. Jamal worked quickly, loosening each bolt with practiced movements. His forehead was stained with sweat, and as the sun set, it cast long shadows across the road. To get a better look, the man moved in closer and bent slightly. "You got skills, son. Where'd you learn that kind of precision?" From him, Jamal said simply, "He taught me to listen to the car. Says every sound, every shake means something." Within minutes, the old tire was off and the spare was in place. After tightening the bolts with steady hands, Jamal kicked the tire hard. Solid. He packed away his tools, brushing the dirt from his knees. He said, "All done." As if trying to interpret the boy's expressions as a story, the man gave him a long stare. He then gave a fleeting grin to his lips. "You've done a great job, son." Jamal just nodded, pushing his bike upright. "I'm glad I could assist." However, the man's voice followed him down the road as he started to ride away. "Wait, what's your name?" He called back, pedaling slowly, "Jamal Rivers." As if committing the name to memory, the man murmuredly repeated it, and as Jamal disappeared around the bend, the rich businessman was already thinking. There was more to this boy than met the eye. Jamal was back on that same road 2 days later, riding toward the town's one and only grocery store. The sun was hotter this time, and the asphalt shimmered like black glass. He thought about the man with the Mercedes only once or twice, wondered if he'd made his meeting, if he even remembered him. Kids like him usually didn't bother people like that. But Jamal noticed a familiar silver SUV parked by the curb as he turned the corner near the gas station. The same man was standing next to it, leaning against the hood with a pair of dark sunglasses and an expression that was hard to read. Jamal slowed his bike as he debated whether to approach. But the man straightened, slipping the glasses into his pocket. He made a call. Jamal. The boy blinked. Hey. I've been looking for you, the man said, his tone calm but deliberate. Would you mind if we spoke? Jamal hesitated because he was torn between being cautious and curious. I guess so. The man took a step forward and extended a hand. The name Daniel Whitmore. I never introduced myself properly the other day. Jamal awkwardly shook it. Mister. Whitmore's handshake was firm, but his eyes, they carried the kind of focus that made you feel seen and weighed at the same time. I wanted to thank you again, Whitmore continued. If you hadn't helped me, I would have missed the most important meeting of my year. It turns out that closing that deal saved over 100 jobs. Jamal said, unsure what else to say. That's good. Whitmore continued, but with a lower voice. But there's more. You did more than just fix my car that day. You showed me something I haven't seen in a long time. Skill, integrity, and no expectation of reward. And that prompted me to reflect. Jamal raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking about? Before speaking again, Whitmore gave him a prolonged period of attention. What's your situation at home, Jamal? You in school? Got plans for future? Whitmore probably didn't mean for the question to land heavier than it did. Jamal turned uncomfortably and turned to look away. I suppose school is fine. Not really plans. Just trying to help my mom out. Whitmore's gaze softened. And your father? Jamal quickly responded in a flat tone. Don't have one. Never had since I was 2. The distance between them only got wider. Whitmore glanced toward the Mercedes, then back at Jamal. Pay attention. I have an offer. One whose presence could alter your life. However, this is not a decision that can be made on the spot. Can I come by and talk to your mother? Jamal stiffened. Strangers didn't just show up in his small world, especially wealthy men in tailored suits and shiny cars. Why? Because I think you have potential, Whitmore said simply. And I don't waste potential, she added. Jamal studied him for a long moment. There was no smugness in the man's voice, no false charm. Jamal was both uneasy and strangely hopeful by this certainty. Jamal said, finally, all right. However, you better be honest about this. The tiniest smile came out of Whitmore's mouth as it curled. I'm always honest, son. Whitmore's silver Mercedes pulled up in front of Jamal's small, weather-worn house the following afternoon. The porch railings peeling paint gave the impression of dry skin and the overgrown yard. Tanya, Jamal's mother, stood in the doorway with her arms crossed and her eyes wide with suspicion. You the man my boy's been talking about? She asked, her tone guarded. Whitmore respectfully nodded. Ah, ma'am. Daniel Whitmore. May I come in? Tanya reluctantly retreated. The house had a faint odor of frying onions and laundry soap inside. The living room was small but clean, and the cushions on an old couch were sagging in the middle. Whitmore got right to the point as they sat down. Mrs., I'm here, Harris, because your son possesses rare qualities that merit nurturing. Tanya furrowed her brow. Exactly what you're saying. I run a private youth mentorship program, Whitmore explained, funded out of my own pocket. It offers training, education, and opportunities that can open doors most kids never get near. I want Jamal to be in that program. A fine line formed between Tanya's lips. And why my son? There are plenty of kids out here. Whitmore maintained his gaze. Because he came to my aid when no one else did. Because he worked without asking for a dime. Additionally, due to his mechanical instincts and skill, that has the potential to become a career. Jamal watched his mother's expression soften just a little, but there was still caution in her eyes. And what's the catch? Chances aren't given away for free by anyone. Whitmore paused before leaning forward. There is no catch, except that this is going to change everything. The program is in Chicago. During the school year, he would live there, and his housing, training, and tuition would all be covered. He'd come home for summers. The room stopped talking. Jamal felt a tightening in his chest. Chicago? Away from home? Away from mom? Tanya shook her head slowly. That's a lot to take in. I cannot simply, I know, Whitmore said gently. However, there is something about me that you both need to know before making a decision. He reached into his suit pocket, pulling out an old, creased photograph. In it, a much younger Daniel Whitmore, maybe his 20s, stood in front of a rusty pickup truck, grinning proudly. Beside him was a boy, about Jamal's age, wearing a grease-stained T-shirt and the same look of guarded pride Jamal himself carried. Whitmore quietly tapped the image and said, "That boy was me. My father left when I was young. I fixed cars to help my mother keep the lights on. A stranger saw me working one day and gave me a chance. Everything I now have is a result of that chance." Jamal stared at the photo, realization dawning. Whitmore gave him a direct stare. "Jamal, I'm here because I see myself in you, and I'm not going to leave." Tanya remained still for a considerable amount of time, while Whitmore held up the faded photograph. Despite the slight trembling in her lips, she maintained her steady voice. "You're saying someone did for you what you want to do for my boy?" Whitmore nodded. "Exactly. And I can't promise the road will be easy, but I can promise he won't walk it alone." Jamal's heart pounded. He was completely dependent on the approval of his mother. He leaned forward, his voice low. "Ma, this could change our lives. I could help you for real one day. Not just with the light bill or groceries, but really change things." Her eyes glistened, and for a moment she looked away, swallowing hard. "You already helped me more than you know," she whispered. Then she looked at Whitmore, her voice gaining weight. "If I say yes, you take care of him like he's your own," she said. The response from Whitmore came immediately. "I will." A handshake that resembled a silent oath was used to conclude the transaction. 2 weeks later, Jamal stood on the platform at the small-town train station. His bag was light, but his heart was heavy. With her hands covering his face, Tanya stood alongside him. "You remember who you are, you hear me? You're my boy. You put in a lot of effort. Keep your humility, and don't let anyone tell you what you can't do." "I won't, Ma." His throat tightened, but he forced a smile. "When you see me again, I'll be able to fix more than just tires." Until the train's whistle prompted him to leave. They hugged tightly and unwaveringly. Jamal climbed aboard, finding a seat by the window. He put his hand on the glass as the train started to move. Tanya waved so much that she disappeared into the distance. As he sat across from Whitmore, he maintained a calm and steady presence. "You ready, son?" Jamal looked out at the fields rolling past, then back at Whitmore. "I've been ready my whole life." The train carried them toward a skyline that glittered in the afternoon sun, a future wide open, waiting for the boy who once stopped to help a stranger on the side of the road. And somewhere deep inside, Jamal knew this was the beginning of a story no one in his neighborhood would ever forget.